Hi everyone, and welcome to the LinkedIn Collective Studio at Cannes. I'm Nancy Hall, the CEO of Mindshare North America, and I'm so excited to be here today to talk about leadership and marketing now and into the future. I'm fortunate to be joined by Jen Murillo, the CMO of Discover Financial Services, and I'm so excited, Jen, to talk to you today about leadership and your career. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
There's so much that goes into being a CMO and the success of the marketing of an organization. Can you tell us a little bit about your career experiences and how those have contributed to your success?
Sure. So, I think something that's really served me well was all the way back to the beginning in college. I studied journalism, and coming out of journalism school, you really are taught how to tell a story and also how to really closely listen to the people you're telling your story to or about. And that has been something that really has never left me, even though I never was a practicing reporter or writer. That idea of telling a compelling story, knowing what your audience needs to hear, and really listening to who that story is about and telling the story well has been something I've really drawn on a lot in my career, whether it's talking to consumers or even just having conversations internally, selling the team's ideas, trying to explain where we're wanting to go. So I think that has been a really helpful part of my career. I would say coming out of school, my first couple of jobs were at agencies. And I really feel like there's nothing like working at an agency to really teach you the fundamentals of the business and about how to reach customers and the way to really sell and market products. So that was like a very helpful boot camp training ground. And then moving over to the marketing side and working at a big US-based company, I've worked at Discover for several years, and working in a big company like that where you have the opportunity to do different jobs, to take on different roles, it gives you the chance to really learn the business inside and out, which then helps you because as you're marketing the product, you're really marketing the business. And you can do that so much more effectively when you understand how things run.
So storytelling, basic tenet of marketing, of course, and of leadership, knowledge of the business overall, and intimate understanding of the Discover business. The 20 plus years that you've been at Discover, all of those experiences I'm sure have contributed to you being very credible in your role once you took that CMO position. And I'm sure that the teams felt that credibility from you. But a CMO role is different than the roles that you've held in the past. Can you talk about how you built that credibility further with your teams?
Sure. Well, I think part of the credibility is experience of being, people know what they're going to get when they're dealing with you because of the experiences that they've had in the past and what you've been able to accomplish. But I think the biggest factor that is important to me anyway is trust. And definitely trust in your team. You can sometimes have a tendency to want to get really into the details, especially as you've come up in your career and maybe you've done a lot of those jobs. And so, in the interest of speed or just your own personal interest, you might want to dive in and get very, very close to the work. And I think it's so important to make sure that you really trust your team and trust them to have it, because no one person can do it all. And in a CMO role, you're tasked really with setting the vision and making sure people understand that vision so that they can make the magic happen and they can do their best work at the things that they're so talented at. And so having the type of trust and respect of the people who are on the team, I think goes a long way as well in building credibility.
And of course, they're multi-stakeholders that you have to build trust with and that have to trust you.
Sure, and that trust extends outside of the team for sure. In the marketing function, you really have to work with every part of the business, whether it's operations, finance, legal, the data organization. And you have to find a way to make that group work as one team. And that's been really a game changer for us in having those close partnerships and that level of trust around the table, making decisions together so that it's not what marketing wants to do or what finance is trying to accomplish, but that it really is something that's coming together collectively for the business.
So how does one do that? What are the skills that one has to have in order to build that trust and credibility across those different disciplines within an organization? And does it change with time based on your experience?
I think it definitely changes with time. I think the storytelling comes in a little bit in this, but you have to have the substance there. You know, you can tell stories all day and you're not going to have the credibility if you don't have the backup and the buy-in behind it. Something that has been very effective for us is spending quite a bit of time mapping back brand measures and marketing measures and mapping them back to the business. That's very data oriented, and we can't do that by ourselves. We need our partners on the data team, we need our partners in finance to really work through it, partly for their expertise, but also partly for the credibility that they're building this alongside of us. It's not some metrics that marketing has cooked up and is trying to sell to other teams, but it really is something that we've collectively agreed on. What are the correlations? What are the ways that the numbers tie back together, and that we all have a vested interest in it? And you don't do that through a big presentation. You do it through a lot of meetings and discussions and back and forth. But when you put in that type of effort and you get to a place of mutual agreement, then the work becomes so much easier. You set your measures, you have your goals, and then you see how things play out. And when they work the way that you think they're going to work, it's a magical thing, and you build off of that and you do more. And when they don't, it gives you a place to really dig in and understand, okay, what's happening there, course correct, and get it back in the right direction.
So in the past, all of that work have been done manually mostly, but obviously based upon the technological advancements of today, AI now plays a much bigger part in the way we collect that data and analyze that data, utilize that data, and other functions that are required within an organization. So how has AI changed your workforce and even the way you and your leaders lead that population?
It's changing it all the time. And I think back to the Cannes Festival a year ago, and AI was such a huge topic a year ago, and it still is, obviously, but I feel like the tone of that conversation has changed a lot. Last year it felt very motivated almost by fear and concern about trying to understand it more. But AI is not new. I mean, we've all been living with Siri and Alexa and lots of forms, ways. Yeah, absolutely. So many forms of this for decades. And it's going to continue to evolve. It's going to change the ways, in some ways, that we're able to tell our stories and how personalized we can make them, which I think is very exciting. But it also changes the way that we can interact with our customers. And I'm so excited about some of the work that we've been doing at Discover, using AI to get better at how we're servicing our customers. And I'm not talking about putting more with bots or IVRs or anything like that, but we're doing some really great work using AI to harness all the reams and scores of data and information that we have to help our customers, so that when somebody does call and wants to talk to an agent, they're able to very quickly find exactly what that answer is to the customer's question and give them the very best service possible. And so it gets to those answers quicker, but it leads to better conversations, and not in a way that we're trying to get faster throughput or fewer calls, but really a stronger, better connection with the customer. And it also is really helpful at taking all of those millions of interactions that we're having with customers all the time and helping us distill and find patterns so that we can problem solve things that would be like a needle in a haystack that become a lot more clear when we have AI to help us sort through it.
So AI used for mining data to predict future, to help customers answer their questions, and to make your team and workforce more productive. So that's a change. Another change that comes with technology is consumer behavior, which today is heavily rooted in social, of course.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that focus around social as it relates to your consumers interacting with you, and how does your team have to change in order to support that medium?
Yeah, social is so exciting. We love that as a channel. You know, I think in any channel, we're always trying to find ways to show up and be additive to the experience that somebody is going to that channel for. And I think social is special because it is so highly personalized, and it does afford us opportunities to really get a lot closer with the content and connect with people for what they're going to that channel for. So with the ability to get even more personalized with the, you know, what AI can do for us, and with those social channels, we've done some really great communication with customers. And I think the thing that's most gratifying is when customers reflect our brand back to us. When we see things out in the wild where people are taking the time to post things and show the product as it's relevant in their daily
organically.
lives, or completely organically. There was a great example a couple months ago. One of our card members had one of our custom designed plastics that had Mount Rainier on it, and he took a hike on Mount Rainier and held his card and took a selfie like in front of the mountain. And it was kind of a very nice sort of meta moment. But there was the brand, you know, in a very relevant way in his life, and, you know, coming back to us in that way. And I could give you plenty of examples of people that have posted, videos about how they spend their money, or tips that they're using as they're managing their finances, where they're choosing to talk about us because we're relevant to them, not because we put together an influencer program to try and generate that content, but because it's relevant to them in their life, and so it shows up in their conversation.
And you have such a fantastic brand, and it shows through that organic social momentum that you have. So speaking of momentum, we're here at Cannes.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about this week to see, to feel, to learn?
Yeah, it's such an exciting week. There's so many things to do. So I'm excited for a lot of great meetings that we have set up, but I'm mostly excited about really getting to experience some of the programming at the Palais. And, you know, this year's theme is around brand bravery. And, I'm very, very interested in hearing some of those voices and stories about what other brands from around the world are doing, and really learning from that.
It's such an exciting week, and I'm looking forward to being here with you. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But Jen, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your leadership insights. And thank you to our audience for watching. Take care.